The edge of my passport curled and blackened as flames licked at the cover. I stood motionless in our kitchen, watching the blue booklet transform into ash and embers in the copper sink basin. My wife Belle had used the fancy cooking torch, the one she'd bought for making creme brulee but never actually used for desserts. "You don't need it anyway," Belle said, not looking up from her phone. Her thumb scrolled mindlessly through an endless feed of filtered lives. "You should be here with the kids." She raised her green smoothie to her lips, taking a delicate sip. I noticed she'd painted her nails a shade of coral that matched her new swimsuit, the one packed for Santorini. "Noah says the water there is the most perfect blue on earth," she continued, her voice casual, as if discussing the weather rather than her vacation plans with another man. "He's been there 3 times already." I remained silent, studying the remains of what had once been my passport. The gold emblem was now just a warped metal disc amid the charred paper. 12 years of marriage and I still couldn't believe she'd done it, burned my freedom while planning her escape. Belle glanced up, seeming irritated by my silence. "Are you even listening? I need this break, this time to find myself again." She gestured vaguely around our designer kitchen. "This life is suffocating me." What Belle didn't know, what I'd kept secret as a surprise for our anniversary next month, was that I'd just signed the papers selling my startup for $2 billion. $2 billion. The deal had closed yesterday. The money would hit our accounts next week. The life she found so suffocating was about to expand beyond her wildest dreams. Or would have. "I understand," I finally said, my voice even. I swept the passport ashes into the trash, careful not to let any residue mar the pristine quartz countertop she'd insisted on during our last renovation. Belle smiled, seemingly pleased with my compliance. "Good. I've arranged for the nanny to stay overnight while I'm gone. It's only 10 days. You won't even notice I'm gone." She drained her smoothie and set the glass in the sink without rinsing it. "When does your flight leave?" I asked. "Tomorrow afternoon. Noah's picking me up at 11. She stood, smoothing her yoga pants. "I'm going to bed early. Don't stay up too late on that computer." I nodded, watching as she glided out of the kitchen, phone still clutched in her hand like an extension of herself. I waited until I heard our bedroom door close before I moved. In the garage, I opened a small safe hidden behind the holiday decoration boxes, a spot Belle never touched. Inside was $10,000 in cash, copies of important documents, and the keys to a vehicle Belle knew nothing about. The black SUV was registered to an LLC I'd created years ago, parked in a storage unit across town. A precaution I'd never thought I'd need. I packed a single bag, clothes, toiletries, laptop. Simple, practical items. Nothing that would be immediately missed. In the kitchen, I wrote a note on our monogram stationery. "You're right. I should stay home. Enjoy your trip." I placed it on the counter where she'd find it with her morning coffee. Belle was not an early riser. I'd be long gone before she opened her eyes. As I backed out of our driveway at 3 in the morning, I glanced at our house. 5,000 square feet of cathedral ceilings, marble bathrooms, and staged family photos. It looked like a magazine spread, perfect in every detail. Just like Belle. 30 minutes later, I parked the SUV in the private garage beneath a downtown penthouse. Another asset Belle knew nothing about. I'd purchased it through my LLC with cash 6 months ago when I first caught a glimpse of a text from Noah on Belle's phone. The elevator opened directly into the apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the city lights spread out below like fallen stars. No designer furniture here, just the essentials. A bed, a desk, a couch facing the view. I set my bag down and walked to the window. Belle thought she trapped me at home by burning my passport, believing I had nowhere to go while she enjoyed her romantic getaway on my dime. She had no idea I'd been planning my exit for months. Tomorrow, while Belle was in the air heading to Santorini with Noah, all our joint accounts would freeze. The credit cards would stop working. The truth would begin to surface. I pressed my palm against the cool glass, the city twinkling below. Belle had burned my passport, but she'd also burned the last thread holding our marriage together. She just didn't know it yet. Sunlight streamed through the penthouse windows, waking me from the deepest sleep I'd had in months. I reached for my phone, 10 missed calls from Belle. I didn't bother reading the messages. Instead, I called Juno, my attorney. She did what? Juno's voice crackled with disbelief when I told her about the passport. Burned it? Right in front of me. I moved to the window, watching the city come alive below. Look, there's something else. The startup sold. $2 billion. Silence, then a low whistle. Congratulations. Does Belle know? No. And I'd like to keep it that way for now. Can you freeze our joint accounts? Today before noon? Consider it done, Juno said. I'll call you once it's handled. My next call was to Theo, my business partner who'd been present at the signing. How's the penthouse? He asked, knowing about my contingency plan. Perfect. I need your help controlling the press. No announcements about the sale yet. You got it? Though you know it'll leak eventually. By 11, Juno called back. Accounts frozen. Credit cards deactivated. She's got whatever cash is in her wallet and nothing more. I smiled, picturing Belle at a boutique in Santorini, her card declining as Noah watched. The thought was strangely satisfying. The penthouse had cost $2 million in cash, purchased through my shell company. No trace back to me. Belle had always mocked my paranoia about financial security. My phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. This is Isla, Noah's fiancée. Can we meet? I responded immediately, Cafe on 5th, 30 minutes. I showered quickly, my mind racing. Belle wasn't the only one with secrets. Noah had a fiancée and now she wanted to talk. I wondered how much Isla knew, and what she would do with the information I was about to share. As I left the penthouse, I felt something unfamiliar: freedom. For the first time in years, I wasn't answering to Belle, wasn't trying to meet impossible expectations. The passport she'd burned was nothing compared to the bridges I was about to light up. Back at the penthouse, I scrolled through the messages between Belle and Noah that Isla had forwarded to me. My stomach tightened as I read months of exchanges, discovering they'd been planning this for longer than I'd suspected. He's such a loser, Belle had written. No ambition, no future. Just waits for his little app to make money while I do all the real work. If only she knew what that little app had just sold for. My phone rang. Juno. I need the home surveillance footage, she said without preamble. How far back does it go? 90 days. Why? Building evidence. If she's been bringing him into your home, it strengthens our position. I pulled up the security app on my laptop. There was Belle letting Noah into the garage 3 weeks ago. Another clip showed her rifling through my desk drawers while he waited. In one particularly bold moment, she even waved at the camera, confident I'd never checked the footage. My phone buzzed with new messages from Belle. Where are you? Cards aren't working. Call me. I didn't reply. Radio silence was part of my strategy now. Isla texted next. Found receipts. Hotel bookings. Flights. All on your card. Sent everything to Noah's boss. Investigation starting. Perfect. Noah worked at a financial firm with strict morality clauses. This would devastate his career. I thought about our children, 6 and 8, currently with the nanny. They were the only reason I felt any hesitation about what I was doing. But they deserved better than a mother who used them as props for social media and a father living in quiet desperation. Tomorrow I'd meet with Era, a journalist friend. The story would break subtly, an anonymous tale of influence and betrayal. People would connect the dots eventually. Belle had burned my passport thinking she trapped me at home. Instead, she'd lit the fuse on a bomb that would destroy the life she'd built on lies. I closed my laptop. Phase 1 complete. I found myself staring at an old photo on my phone. Belle and me 12 years ago. I'd been a regular programmer then, nothing special. She'd approached me at a tech mixer, said she saw potential in me. Back then, that felt like the greatest compliment anyone had ever given me. We married 2 years later in her parents' backyard. Her father toasted to the next tech genius, and Belle beamed with pride. Not for who I was, I realized now, but for who she expected me to become. As the startup grew, so did her expectations. My hoodies disappeared, replaced by tailored shirts she selected. My college friends stopped calling after Belle dubbed them distractions. Even Kai, my brother, eventually stopped visiting after Belle made it clear he wasn't welcome. I became her version of me, neat, quiet, obedient. I remembered our early days, sketching dreams on napkins over coffee. A villa in Florence, that was our shared vision. I'd drawn it clumsily on the back of a receipt: terracotta roof, winding garden path, a small vineyard in the distance. When you make it big, she'd said, tucking the sketch into her wallet. Years later, she mocked that same dream. Florence? Why would anyone want to go there? Full of tourists and old buildings. She never knew the real me, I realized. The man who stayed up coding until dawn, not because he wanted a mansion but because he loved creating something from nothing. The man who donated anonymously to coding programs for kids from backgrounds like mine. Belle wanted a puppet, not a partner. And I'd let her pull my strings for too long. I thought about the children. How Belle used them as accessories for her social media. Perfectly dressed, perfectly posed, perfectly miserable. They deserved authenticity. I closed the photo app and opened my email. Time to contact Kai. Time to rebuild what Belle had systematically dismantled. The real me was still here, buried beneath years of compromise and quiet resentment. It was time to excavate him. I watched the security feed on my laptop, knowing Belle's flight was scheduled to land at noon. This wasn't how I'd imagined our confrontation, observing from a distance through digital eyes, but it felt right somehow. My phone buzzed with a message from Juno. House codes changed. Accounts remained frozen. LLC paperwork in place. Children with nanny as arranged. I nodded to myself. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. At around 1, a taxi pulled up to my house. Belle emerged wearing oversized sunglasses, her hair pulled back in a tight ponytail. She looked nothing like the carefree influencer from her Santorini posts. She punched in the door code. Nothing happened. She tried again, pressing harder this time. Still nothing. I watched as realization dawned on her face, followed quickly by anger. Belle pounded on the door, then shouted something I couldn't hear through the silent feed. She stormed around to the back, trying the patio doors. Those codes had been changed too. Eventually she returned to the front steps and sat down, head in her hands. The taxi had long gone. She might call the police, Juno warned when I sent her the footage. I've prepared for that scenario. The house is legally in your LLC's name now. I minimized the security feed and returned to my work, establishing a foundation in my mother's name. $5 million initial funding, earmarked for coding scholarships and summer camps for underprivileged kids. Mom had worked 2 jobs to buy me my first computer. This would be her legacy. I drafted an email to Belle, knowing she'd check her phone eventually. You burned my passport so you could travel with another man to what was supposed to be our dream destination. I burned the illusion you called a marriage. The difference? Your ashes were real. Mine were just the remains of something that never truly existed. Don't bother coming home. There isn't one anymore, at least not for you. I paused before hitting send. Was this revenge or liberation? Perhaps both. I pressed send. I woke to the sound of rain pattering against the penthouse windows. A steady rhythm, calming and constant. Unlike my life lately. Reaching for my phone, I saw Belle had finally gone public with her drama. A carefully filtered post showing her staring wistfully out a window, going through something real right now, but I'll come back stronger. #authenticity, #journey, #truth. The irony wasn't lost on me. Era's article had also gone live, behind the facade, when influence becomes control. While she'd kept it anonymous, the details were specific enough that people in our circle would connect the dots. The comment section under Belle's latest post had already begun to shift. This sounds like someone I know, one read. Interesting timing with that new article going around, said another. An anonymous email appeared in my inbox. She used to laugh about you at her girls' nights. Called you her money tree. We all thought it was cruel, but none of us spoke up. I'm sorry. I closed my email. Tomorrow I'd sign the foundation documents. My mother's legacy would help kids like I once was, with potential but limited resources. The rain continued as I monitored Belle's social platforms. Her engagement numbers were dropping. Several brands had quietly removed her from their partner pages. A text from an unknown number. It's Belle. New phone. We need to talk. Public place, please. I considered ignoring it, but curiosity won out. 5th Street Diner. Noon tomorrow. Thank you, came the immediate reply. I set down my phone and walked to the window. The city looked different in the rain, cleaner somehow, as if the downpour was washing away pretense along with pollution. Belle had been my storm for 12 years. But storms eventually pass, and what remains is either destruction or renewal. I was choosing renewal. Tomorrow would be our final conversation. Not as husband and wife, but as 2 strangers acknowledging that their paths had permanently diverged. The rain continued falling, and for the first time in years I felt clean. I arrived at the diner 15 minutes early, but Belle was already there, tucked into a window booth. She looked different, tired, makeup-free, her normally perfect nails chipped and uneven. The polished influencer persona had cracked. I slid into the seat across from her. The vinyl cushion squeaked beneath me. Coffee? The waitress appeared with a pot. Black, no sugar, I said. Belle nodded for the same. When the waitress left, Belle leaned forward. You've made your point. This is cruel. Is it? I stirred my coffee slowly. I'd call it a consequence. You're punishing me because I wanted a vacation? Because I needed space. Space with Noah and Santorini? On my credit card. Her eyes widened slightly. How did you? Does it matter? I know everything, Belle. The messages, the plans, the lies. She shifted tactics, her voice softening. We can fix this. Think about the children. They need both of us. They need authentic parents, not performances. I'll change, she whispered, reaching for my hand. I pulled away. There's nothing to come back to, I said quietly. The house, the accounts, the life you knew, it's gone. Her expression hardened. I'll take you to court. I'll get the best lawyers. Half of everything is mine. I reached into my jacket and pulled out our prenuptial agreement, sliding it across the table. You signed this, laughing. Said it was cute that I thought we needed it. Her face paled as recognition dawned. Turns out poor men play the long game pretty well, I said, dropping cash for the coffee. Goodbye, Belle. I stood and walked out without looking back. The bell above the diner door chimed as I stepped into the sunlight. For the first time in years, I felt no weight on my shoulders. The last cord had been cut. Whatever came next, the media storm, the legal battles, the social fallout, none of it mattered. I had reclaimed my story. The rest was just epilogue. I woke in the penthouse, Belle's face no longer the first thing on my mind. Progress. By 10, I was sitting across from Marcus, signing the final papers for the foundation. $5 million to start, enough to make a real difference. Your mother would be proud, Marcus said, organizing the documents into a folder. I nodded, thinking of her, working 2 jobs to buy me that first computer despite barely understanding what it did. It's what she deserves. After the meeting, I drove to the park where the nanny had agreed to bring the kids. First time seeing them since I'd left. My stomach tightened with nerves. I spotted them by the pond, my son skipping rocks, my daughter watching with admiration. I brought chocolate ice cream for him, strawberry for her. Some details you never forget as a father. Daddy. Their voices rang out in unison when they saw me. They ran, colliding into my legs with the beautiful recklessness of children who haven't yet learned to hold back. Did you see the lizard by the big rock? My son asked, chocolate already smearing his cheek. I got a star in spelling, my daughter added, not to be outdone. Just children being children. No poses, no perfect lighting, no carefully curated moments for strangers to approve with thumbs-up icons. Want to go to Florence? I asked them. There's a place with red roofs and winding streets. I've wanted to show it to you for a long time. Their eyes widened with excitement at the adventure. Later, I gave a guest lecture at the university about my journey and the $2 billion exit. Students leaned forward in their seats, hungry for the secret formula. Success isn't what you think, I told them. Sometimes it looks exactly like failure until the moment it doesn't. That evening I called Kai. Then Silas, the friend Belle had dismissed as worthless. Florence, I said to both. Next month. I'm rebuilding. Want to be part of it? Both said yes. I opened my laptop and continued working on the platform I'd been coding, Vero. Truth. The opposite of the filtered, performative world Belle had thrived in. Something real at last. I stood on the stage at the Lisbon Tech Conference, the spotlight warm on my face. 1 year since the burned passport. 1 year since I'd walked away from Belle and reclaimed my life. Vero isn't just another platform, I explained to the packed auditorium. It's an alternative to the algorithm-driven, filter-obsessed world we've created. No curated feeds, no validation counters, no artificial enhancements. Just real connections between real people. In the front row, Kai and Silas nodded encouragingly. My brother and my best friend, relationships Belle had systematically dismantled, now rebuilt stronger than before. A reporter raised her hand during the Q&A. There are rumors that your ex-wife's infidelity coincided with your $2 billion exit. Was the platform born from that betrayal? The room fell silent. A year ago this question would have stung. Now it barely registered. She gave me clarity, I answered. That's worth more than anything she took. After the presentation, a woman approached me at the networking event. Her badge read Noah. Interesting name, I said, accepting her handshake. She laughed. I've heard about your ex's boyfriend. Unfortunate coincidence. I'm building something similar to Vero, focused on transparency in corporate communications. We exchanged numbers. Something about her directness felt refreshing. No games, no hidden agendas. My phone buzzed with a message from Theo. Launch is a hit. Investors calling nonstop. You're back, man. I smiled, thinking about the trip to Florence next week with the kids, Kai and Silas. The villa wasn't exactly what I'd sketched on that napkin years ago. It was better. Real stone, real gardens, real memories being made. Belle had once called me a dreamer with no follow-through. Now those dreams were manifesting in ways she'd never imagined. while her carefully constructed image crumbled under the weight of truth. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's living authentically while those who wronged you watch from the sidelines, unable to touch the happiness they never thought you deserved. I sat on the balcony of my hotel room in Lisbon, watching city lights twinkle against the night sky. My phone buzzed constantly with notifications. Vero was trending, investors were calling me a visionary, and the comeback king. The foundation was thriving. My children were laughing again. Kai and Silas were back in my life. Belle had become a footnote. Our divorce finalized, her followers dwindling as the carefully constructed identity she'd built collapsed without my support. I thought about that moment in our kitchen watching my passport burn. She thought she'd won, trapping me in a prison of her making while she escaped. Instead, she'd burned away the final restraint holding me to a life that was slowly killing me. The $2 billion had opened doors, certainly. But walking out of that house had saved me. Building a life from authentic pieces rather than curated fragments, that was the real achievement. Not a triumph born from revenge but from the simple act of choosing myself. My children had their father back. Not the silent, compliant figure who stood in family photos wearing clothes their mother had selected, but a man who could show them what it meant to rebuild, to persist, to value truth over appearance. Noah, the woman from the conference, not the man who'd helped destroy my marriage, had texted about meeting for coffee when we returned to the States. A spark, not a script. A possibility, not a performance. Vero was growing beyond my expectations. The foundation was changing lives. My children were waiting for me in Florence. I no longer needed to prove anything to Belle. I was on the right side, not of money or fame but of myself. The burned passport had been her attempt to control me one last time. But in that destruction she'd inadvertently set me free. Some fires don't destroy you, they ignite you. And I was burning bright. I closed the balcony door and packed my suitcase. Tomorrow Florence awaited. Real history, real beauty, real connections. No filters required.